Warning. You're gonna have to bear with me. I've never done any kind of like live streaming video, so just bear with me because I got some stuff I gotta share. Just that's been on my heart as of late. I'm gonna be all over the place. I'm probably gonna ramble, but my thoughts are so congested right now that this is the only kind of catharsis that it is to actually, at least in my mind, bring some relief to all of this. So I've had some pretty difficult occupations as an adult. Sans a time when I was like doing construction, I've always had some form of job that related to law enforcement or whatever. I've worked in Alaska. That was backbreaking. I am more mentally and emotionally drained over the course of this last week than I think I've ever felt. And I've never done a live video because nothing has ever, I think, warranted the gravity of it. So with that said, so I had to have the talk with my son. And this is the thing about it. The talk you're thinking about, that would have actually been easy. I can explain that. That's birds, bees, biology. So he asked me, Daddy, who's George Floyd? I was like, I can't sequester him from this any longer. So, and I think it's age appropriate. He's a young man. He's 13, you know. It's a rip. I had to have a conversation with him. I can't protect him anymore. And those who are parents know how impotent and just helpless you feel when you know that your kid is just only so much you could do for him. So with all of that said, I couldn't explain it. I'm like, and he sat and watched it, that video in Minneapolis in its entirety. And the thing about it is that I can kind of deal with that, but even that still struck a chord and that cut deep with me. But what hurt me the most is that having to explain this to him, I could tell he lost a piece of his innocence. I can tell you that without a fact, without a doubt in my mind. Emphatically, I can tell you that. I know my child, as you should know your children. So I couldn't explain it to him, you know, and it just, I'm like, I was at a loss for words, and that's actually a rarity for me. But it was chilling to have to watch and go through that and try and explain that to him. Even more so because my child, he sees me put on a uniform every day. And hold on, let me put a little caveat. I'm not speaking in any capacity for my agency. This is just my beliefs as a person and where I feel at this point in time. So it was mind-boggling to me that even transpired and took place. It was so much to the point that it's really taken me this whole last 6 days to absorb it and try to process it myself. But it happened on its own timeline. I'm cool with that. But, you know, we all absorb and deal with stuff a lot differently. Hold on, I'm gonna set a timer because I can feel myself just running over at the mouth and talking. All right, so 20 minutes stops. When this goes off, I'm stopping. I don't claim to be no subject matter expert on anything, but I still have a moral compass and it's not completely askewed. I've never trained where my present position is in the agency that I am at in Lafayette. I've never trained anybody there. But I will say this, I've trained Iraqi police, the DOD said I could do that. and this is not being boisterous or trying to be like some blowhard or anything like that, but the Department of State, I've mentored, I don't know if you can see it. That's, of course, it's all backwards, but so Afghanistan Police Program. And I was a mentor and advisor. So basically we got the Afghan police, the AMP and whatnot. Shout out to all my Don Corps people out there. I will say that to say this. If the Department of State and Department of Defense said I could do it, okay, I'm gonna do it. There is no way that those people's actions or what they did is completely indefensible. Completely. I can't even explain it, to the point that it's been vexing my spirit as a person, just having to do this and still go on and deal with normal adult stuff. You know, between the COVID, the killer bees or hornets, wherever they're coming from in Asia, and just everything else, it's a lot. I get that. But this is something different, y'all, and I just hope that y'all recognize this, because if y'all don't see that there is a systemic problem that is plaguing us, and this is not just about skin tone, melanin, whatever, you know, whatever tribe you're claiming, cool. We're all grafted into one tribe, supposedly, that's a whole nother story. But point being is, there's definitely something wrong with how we view each other. And I think it's the fact that I'll go ahead and say it, stop praying. When you no longer can recognize that you were created by a higher purpose and another being, and you can recognize that in somebody else, that's empathy, that's sympathy. I have cousins that look exactly like Floyd. And this is the thing about it, how his life was just so cavalierly extinguished. The dude's calling out for his mother, and if you look at it, okay, just from a standpoint of being somebody who is going in total, like 10th year of law enforcement, if you got somebody in the prone, handcuffed on their stomach, and you can't control them, you are using the wrong tactics. Point blank. So you're telling me it takes three to subdue an already handcuffed dude, and in light of all of the other stuff that's coming out with him being beat in the back of the unit and whatnot, it's deplorable. It's deplorable. There's no other word for it, and I'm not going to bite my tongue on it. There's a lot of stuff boiling up inside of me and whatnot, but it's worrisome to the point that I, with a full heart, put a uniform on any day. And I love doing it. I love the leadership of our whole parish, all the municipalities. The reason that stuff doesn't happen down here is because we actually have leaders and there's safeguards in place. Point blank. Use of force that you operated outside of policy, you're gone. Trust me. And there's people that I still rock with who had to leave for whatever reason. Cool. I understand it. Made a bad decision. Understood. We all do it. But there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. And what's more troubling is that seems to be the norm of what we're existing in right now. It's like, we're so desensitized to the point that it's like, listen, I've and this ain't me, chest pounding or whatever and whatnot. I'm way past that. I'm getting too long in the tooth to be in a pissing contest or measuring my junk with anybody. Nothing to do with that. But I picked up fingers and body parts to ID people in Iraq through biometrics. I'm okay with that. Cool. There's 3 other people who could have intervened and stopped that. And I can say completely that has never happened in front of me, ever. Ever. And I would never let that happen, to the point being that I know the law and the parameters that I have to operate in. I've really been questioning myself. Had I been in Minneapolis on a vacation or just visiting somebody and would have saw that, you're obligated as a person, as a human being, to do something about that. And I just don't understand where the disconnect is. Look, I'm not trying to assign blame to anybody. I'm not trying to, we're past all of that. It doesn't even make any sense. Not gonna help. What I'm saying is that he did that, and he did it without remorse. That's what's most troubling for me. So I got to think down the line, and I understand what my father was talking about when I was running the streets growing up. I didn't know if you were going to come home at night. So my son's looking at me for answers. He sees me put a uniform on every day, just about every day. And I can't explain that to him. He has lost a part of his innocence in his. I could tell he was just as flabbergasted as I was. But we have to start seeing each other. If we start looking at each other through a lens of, okay, I don't care about political lines, affiliations, but whatever. You can't govern morality to people. You just can't do it. Vice, all of that other stuff, you cannot do it. You can't. There's a difference between being, I guess, amoral and moral. You have a moral obligation to not let something like that happen in front of you. And I'm not saying do no wild stuff. Look, I got to still put a uniform on every day. When I go places, when I'm catching up on paperwork, I got to find places where I can back in my rear end first, just in case somebody doesn't shoot up on me. So with all of that said, I'm not even saying I have the answer. And trust me, this is more like catharsis for me, because I just can't internalize this anymore. I have lost sleep behind this. And more so to the point, it's like, what if, God forbid, 10 years from now, my son's traveling, or one of my loved ones, somebody I hold dear, happens to run across somebody like that in the same mindset? Y'all might not have known Floyd. He was somebody. He meant something to somebody. That's it. He was a brother, probably. He had cousins, had a father, had a mother. Don't know the extent of their relationship. Regardless, he was so cavalierly snuffed out and everything taken away from him. And the thing about it, it didn't have to happen. It did not have to happen. That's my whole thing. It's like it's something that could have been completely avoided. And I know it ain't a policy issue, because what he did, there ain't no way you can do that. No, you cannot. That's positional asphyxiation. You can't do that. But the thing about what was so heinous and callous about it is it didn't register on that guy's mind at any point in time to, maybe I should back out and stop doing this. More so disturbing was the fact that nobody else decided to speak up. Again, look. Again, just for context purposes, trained Afghans and Iraqis. Been to, and that's not me being boastful, just contextually speaking, I'm just trying to say, like, why I'm saying this. For the simple fact that we have to do better. All right, so this is when I went through the academy. This is my certificate. All right, this is something called a post. Every state has a post right here. Louisiana Post Council. POST stands for Peace Officer Standards and Training. Let me rephrase this to you. Not police officer, not sheriff deputy, peace officer. We are supposed to bring a calm to a situation. When all people lose their minds, everybody can't go crazy at the same time. We have to be that voice that steps in and be like, okay, let's chill. Peace officer. The first time I went through the academy, and I'm going to reference a couple people because they were like pivotal people that I think came into my life at a certain time. So, all right, here's the first time I went through the academy. All right. That was summer of '99. Lead instructor was a Francis Green. Told me something that completely changed my mind. He was a CB, great at it. He had the can-do attitude. But even at the age of 22, when I turned 22 in the academy, I was able to absorb this. We serve at the pleasure of the public. By general consensus, we've all entered into this whole thing, this contractual thing called society, and we're saying we're going to play by the rules for the most part. Cool. You cannot govern and you cannot expect to have the respect of the population that you're supposed to be protecting if they don't trust you. Like, I don't understand this. Cannot understand it. Like, and this is keeping it real. We literally are hanging on by a thread. Like, people don't see this. I'm lucky enough that I guess God decided to bless me with some discernment and whatnot. But you cannot do, nothing can take place without security. Nothing. In churches, in schools, love my current position. School resource officer. Absolutely love it. Found my calling. It's beautiful. It really is. It really is. What's more Puritan than actually being the guardians of the future, protecting kids? I am so cool with that. I've done it for the Department of State. I've done it for Department of Defense. It is ingrained in me to want to protect people and actually do it. So that's why I have such an issue with this, because we are not doing that. We are losing the faith in just the basic trust of our populace. And the thing I've learned, it's taken me up to these 43 years to understand this. Trust is something, once it's broken, incredibly difficult to repair. And the frequency on which we're doing everything is just, it's ridiculous. Botham and Dallas. The other thing, I can't even, my mind's so cluttered right now, I can't even recall everything that's been on here. But I don't know, man. This has been, I've had some rough times in my life, but this last week has been a lot to have to absorb. And I don't know. It's just, it's difficult to the point because I see people as just that. Just by the grace of God that I'm not on the other side of the equation. I mean, a couple bad decisions I made, and I made some stupid ones. So, and that's also confirmation. The dumb things that I have done in my life, not even work related, just stupid positions that I found myself in. it's God has me around for a reason. That's the only reason I can say, because he would have been completely in his power to have taken me, and there wasn't nothing I can say about it. So I don't know. Like I said, we have to do a lot better than what we've been doing, man. Because this is just ridiculous. But I would be remiss to not talk about on the other equation of it. Like, I recognize everything, but I also see it through the lens of law enforcement. Not everybody's like that. Please believe. And I say that with all sincerity. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Yes, there are some bad apples out there. Of course, there is. But there's more of us good ones, and the good ones would never let nothing like that happen. And I'm challenging everybody I know who's in law enforcement right now. If you don't speak up and say something against this, like actually against it, and just validate the fact that we're having problems, if you don't condemn what took place, I'm unfriending you. I'll give you to Friday. You got to put something up, because silence is consent, and I am not. I can't abide by that. I can't abide by that. It's just there's no way possible that anything I can every fiber of my being is not gonna let me do nothing like that. So, but give law enforcement at least the benefit of the doubt. We are working on some things. We got to fix them. Obviously, the first part of recognizing a problem, first part of addressing a problem is recognizing that we have it. But for the most, we want to make it right. Like, I can't think of any critical incident in our parish, in our jurisdiction, that wasn't warranted. It really wasn't. But it's not only that, it's the fact of doing, even when you can do something, you don't always have to do it just because it's in the letter of the law. I was trying to find some kind of letter of recognition. We have the kind of leadership in place that will recognize. They recognize, even if there was an incident that happened in a place called Marigny. No, I'm sorry, Eldecon. Went in there. Dude's literally shooting a gun off, comes to the door with a broken revolver with the barrel missing. Didn't drop it. I can understand that there was a communication problem. Probably within the letter of the law, if he would have came up half an inch, we would have been justified doing it. But thank God for body cameras, that it recognized it. We were commended for doing, I don't even want to say the right thing, but because both of them would have been right. But we chose not to be that heavy-handed. And it's just something that's just missing in people in general nowadays. We don't recognize the other person as a person. And that is a huge problem. That is a huge problem. But again, with law enforcement, give us time, because we have a lot of stuff to process. Stand by 1 second. So this is on my fridge. This was the last in line of duty shooting that we had. And actually, at one point, I went to go interview like years ago, like 7-8 years ago, something like that, to interview with the PD. And he was the person that I had to do my ride-alongs with. And when I say most genuine, good-hearted person, and there's no doubt in my mind that the night his life was taken, if he really had a chance, this dude was a gunslinger. You have to process that, and then just for contextual speaking, I'm at a Cracker Barrel getting some gas, see the vehicles pass by that are giving that notification that nobody else wants to get, and then we get a call, somebody else got murdered. You're like, this can't be real. Not twice in one night. Regular Joe Blow citizen, but law enforcement, they're dealing with a lot. And all we ask is that you give us patience and work with us. We're not all like that. I promise you we're not. We're not. Greatest job I have right now is being a school resource officer. Nobody else can tell me otherwise. And I don't think anybody can do my job better than me. And that's just because it's in its purest form, you're protecting children. But with that said, you still got to look at it. Floyd was somebody's child. Granted, a couple years, a couple decades over, but he's still somebody to somebody. And that's what I don't understand. That's what I don't understand. You got probably 4 or 5 types of people who go into law enforcement. You get the ones who it's a kind of a family thing, like their grandfather was whoever and wherever, and their dad did it, and so now they're doing it. There's other ones who really don't have any other job aspects. Let's just keep it real. They have no other job aspects. Like when I came in, the oil field was taken out. Slew of applications. People coming from the oil field. Well, I guess I got to get a real job. Okay. Then you have people who see it as a way of, I guess, gaining respect. And please understand this. There's a difference between commanding respect and demanding respect. 2 different things. 2 completely different things. If you was a punk in high school and got picked on and thrown in the lockers, you're going to be a punk with a badge. There's no 2 ways about it. There's no 2 ways about it. Point blank. Point blank. Just because you put a weapon on your hip doesn't add inches to your manhood, and the fact that you can assert your will on somebody, the gravity of that, there's nothing worse than that. We meet people at their absolute worst times. Nobody likes cops. Everybody loves firefighters. I get it. Nobody wants to be told what to do. Nobody actually wants to have to listen to a police officer. I don't like being told what to do. I don't. I get it. I said all that to say this. I don't know, man. This is just, like I said, this is just a lot to process with all of this, man. Bro. Everything that's in you that, like, I got picked on unmercifully as a kid. Oh, yeah. Growing up out the east in New Orleans, it was real. Got ran inside many a time. Got knocked out a couple times. Finally grew a pair, started knocking back. But that was such a pivotal in placed in me that I don't want anybody to ever feel that and not be helped. Because I've been in helpless situations. It's emasculating. You feel impotent. It is absolutely, it humbles you. When I was 22 and still thought I had an S on my chest and could, whatever, go out and just was trying to make a name for myself and whatnot, you're 22 for a reason. At 43, I understand how fragile and delicate life is and that tomorrow's not promised to anybody. And it's so much. Since December, I have lost 11 people that were very close to me. And that's really a humbling situation. 2 of them, people served with the military, and I'm not going to go off on that tangent because I'll start talking about, but the suicide rate for that is absolutely ridiculous. This is the thing about it. If we would stop being so cavalier toward each other and start recognizing each other as who we are, we would solve a whole lot of our problems. But we don't. It's us against them. And we're being played by people. We are really being played by people. spiritual wickedness. But again, that's something else I'm not going to go off on. I don't know. It's really hard when you lose your bearing on something, because this has been really hard to deal with these last couple of days. I mean, I don't know what else and how else to say it, but I don't know. All right, I already went over my time, so I'm gonna get off. But I'm so serious about that. I will be actively checking my friends, especially the ones who I'm 10-8 with. If I don't hear something, I mean, at least a post or something saying that is not us. Okay, definitively, line being drawn in the sand. We will stand apart. I promise you this. And I'm not saying that but thank you. You're going to show your true colors. And you know what? That has to. We have to sift through all of the wheat to get through the chaff and separate it. Real talk. And people who I know I'm talking about, they know what I'm talking about. But this is absolutely deplorable. And hey, we've had leadership saying, hey, if you're not with us, you're against us. In this instance, it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. Silence is consent. And I can't stand by. I've worn many a uniform. I've been gimped up, sent to Walter Reed, got spat on, yada, yada, yada. Cool, whatever. But even after the uniform changes, you still are, and you still have to be the person that you have to live with and be comfortable with. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to have to give an account for everything. There's no way I can let this pass and not say anything. Okay, I grew up in the NO. I grew up in Jefferson Parish in Metairie under racist-ass Harry Lee. Put it to you like this. The first time I ever dealt with Jefferson Parish police was at the Lakeside Mall, and it was a Hispanic deputy. And granted, we were kids. We were hanging out in the parking lot, being loud, causing attention, doing what kids do. Gets out, told us to disperse, but we were being loud, plus he had a heavy accent, couldn't understand him. I was like, what did you say? And I understand my tone probably was not the best, but I wasn't meaning in any kind of malicious or I wasn't trying to go against the grain or challenge his authority. But looks at me, proceeds to get out, pull out a PR-24, hit me in my solar plexus, and I was like, okay, all right, well, this is real. Even through all of that, that was such a pivotal, and I would not change it for nothing in the world, because I was like, this is not right. How that resonated with me, and I knew it wasn't right because I just got the wind knocked out of me. This is still on that same level of decency to say that is not right. It's not. It isn't. It is not right in no way, shape, form. And the bad ones are making our job a lot harder. You really are. So I'm gonna get off because I done went over my time like that. I said I wasn't gonna do anyway, but man, this is like my spirit is vexed behind all of this, because I gotta put on the normal face of being a dad when I come home, get on daddy detail. Hey, daddy, how was your day? I can't share all of that with him. And more so to the point, it's like I still have to get him abreast and up to speed on stuff. Like, Clyde, when you get stopped, if you ever get stopped by the police, it might not be somebody I know. They might not know you as a person. They might not recognize your last name, even though he has the first, middle, last name, different suffix. But I can't in good conscience, having had that talk with him today and not express what's really on my heart. And this has nothing to do with, like I said, this ain't no political, nothing, furthest thing from it. This is about just being a decent human being. Point blank. I don't care about who you roll with, if you fly rebel flags or whatever. Cool. If your heritage means that much to you, so be it. I'm gonna put it to you like this. Being in a combat theater is probably it's like a pressure cooker. Hottest day I ever had in Iraq was 141. But it's a pressure cooker in the sense that you can only keep up a facade for so long. Went over, had no training with these people, literally thought I was going to die as soon as I stepped off the plane. Hand to God. I was like, okay, made it. Get to the unit, no cohesiveness with the people I'm literally like gotten thrown in the mix with. And first deployment was in Tikrit. If anybody knows geographically what that is, that was Saddam's hometown. All right. But I said all that to say this. There was a guy in my unit, and I'll be honest, I had a very preconceived idea about him because Alabama, drawl, Forrest Gump's cousin. All right. Rebel flag on his door. Cool. Like, all right, well, no worries. But also you got to think through the lens of, and I understand it might be your heritage or whatnot, but is it really that much to the point that you want to be so divisive and people feel that strongly about? Sometimes you have to acquiesce. And I'm not telling you not to do it. Okay, cool. Fly your flag. Point being is, we literally, and that's the great thing about the military, when it's all said and done, we don't make policies, we enforce them. I don't care about what's going on stateside. In its purest form, shared hardship builds camaraderie. It got to the point that, Shep, I'm gonna put you out there, Shepard, you know who you are. It's like when we went outside the wire, I prayed that whoever was on my left and on my right cared about me enough to do my job, like I was going to do it for them. In our subculture, in its purest form, law enforcement is, when it's done right, it's a beautiful thing. It really is. It really is. But I'm talking about when it's done right, not what we're going through right now. This is preposterous to me. It's just, and it's a systemic thing. Like, went home for Mardi Gras. Those people are still in the damn Hard Rock building. Like, they got a tarp, like, the bodies have liquefied. That is how cavalier and people just going on, drinking their hurricanes or whatever. But again, you can't get somebody out over 100 days. Listen, man. Leave no man behind. A lot of people use that as a punchline. Other people really use it as pillars for their life and what defines them as a person. You can't tell me that what he did to that man, he valued life. And he's fractured inside. That whole hurt people, I get that. Cool. But the blank stare on his face, he has done that before. I mean, it's coming out on his record. I've been in law enforcement for over 10 years. Trained, like I said, Afghan and Iraqi police. Was on the ERT with the embassy, the U.S. Embassy in Kabul, which is de facto a part of the U.S. Petraeus, Bremer, all of them walking around. If I can get, and this is, again, not me being boastful, I'm just trying to put it into context. Out of all of that, even if I didn't have all of the training and everything that was being poured in me, and I know enough to know that I don't know anything. I've been shooting for half my life, and I'm an average shooter. Dustin without muscles, I'll admit. Street Life says you're a pretty good shooter. He puts holes in holes. Beside the point. What I'm saying is, I'm just speaking from a position that I kind of know what I've been talking about because I've been doing it for literally half my life. There's no way you can justify that. There's no way. There's no way. I challenge, I will have this conversation with anybody. And if you do, something is wrong with you as a person if you think you can defend that. But it's cool. I appreciate it for the simple fact of you were really seeing people's true nature come out. That is a real thing. That is a real thing. And just the callousness and how just the smudge that's on humanity right now, just how people are just so cavalier about not recognizing basic fundamental rights. I don't think y'all understand. This is like a pivotal turning point in our society. Like civil rights, 60s, bro, this is a lightning rod moment. And we can either do the right thing, capture the momentum, and be on the right side of history, or not. So I know where I'm going to be at, but I can't understand it. It's in my nature to want to help people. It truly is. And it's not a cliche. It ain't a punchline. It is something I believe in down to the fiber of my being. I really do. Every job I've had, sans being in the Army, I've always been in a defensive posture, protecting people. Okay, if you're not familiar with Kabul, capital of Afghanistan, if the Department of State says I can guard our interests there, I think I kind of know what I'm talking about. And look, I'm not Tommy Toughnuts. There's way people out there way much more badder than me, but I am remiss to not say anything for the simple fact that I got to ask this. What if that were me on the back of that man's neck and that was your loved one? What you gonna do? You can't defend that anymore, man. We need to start recognizing each other as people and go ahead and say it, the God that's in all of us, because we all have a spirit. We need to start seeing that again. The only thing when having dealt with people who were extremists, fundamentalist Islamists, that they were brainwashed to the point that they have nothing to live for, that is what's wrong with our youth right now. And y'all don't see it. The only reason I even got into being a school resource officer, other than it's the purity of it, is that I have an actual chance to preemptively affect kids in a positive nature. You can't beat that, because some of the kids that were seeing us, the only time they see somebody in a uniform is when we're pulling Uncle Ray Ray that has a aggravated assault warrant out of Arkansas or something. I understand that. Contextually speaking, I understand that. But we are failing our children. You got to keep in mind, at some point in time, these the ones who are the generation behind us, they're going to be in charge. Are we leaving it in a better place for them, or are we just leaving this in complete shambles and we're setting them up for failure? I don't know. Like I said, there's enough blame to go around. I'm not pointing no fingers. I'm not saying that I've done everything completely right, but I do know that my moral compass is not that askew to say that what I saw transpire was not anything else but murder. So I can't not say anything about that. So, but I rambled on too far enough. It's like I said, the first time I've ever done this. So let me see if I can turn this off. But I don't think I'm actually going to be done, because I'm not even remotely, like, my heart's still heavy. So, all right, take it easy.